Welcome to Spinning Back Clique, where each week here at MMA Junkie, we take a spin through the biggest stories in MMA. On today's episode, Derrick Lewis still got it. First round KO for the Black Beast. 2 weeks of GNP coming up for the wife. BKFC is handing out some coin. Reagent signings, 25 million M's in an upcoming tournament. What? We got to find out about this. And the BMF title is at stake this weekend in New Orleans. Don't ask Goes about that topic. He gets all pissed off. Let's preview that scrap. However, hello, everyone. Gorgeous George here on the con. Look at the distinguished panel we have for you today. Goes in Las Vegas, my MMA Junkie Radio co-host. That's right. He's not all about the BMF. We talked about it on last night's show. Danny Segura out in Miami. One of the top reporters in mixed martial arts. Another top gun, Nolan King, out in Boston. He's back-to-back weeks. I love this crew. And Cold Coffee will be on the ones and twos. But before we get started, hit that like button for us, won't you? Please. I mean, when you compare the views to the likes, we're coming up a little bit short. It doesn't require much from you, just a little tap of the button, and it helps us out a ton. Guys, the Nashville recap. Let's start with that. After a couple weeks off, it was nice to see the MMA leader putting on a show. It was tabbed UFC on ESPN 70. And right out of the gate, we had some finishes. So let's get to it, man. The swimsuit competition was underway right out of the gate. 2 TKOs to get things going. That's always a nice start. We also had some submissions, a couple split decisions to keep us on our toes. Let's discuss. Goes. We covered the Black Beast. Remember when he was in the studio, we couldn't even get him to leave. And now he's chatting with the president after the fight while standing in the octagon in his chonies. Times have changed. React.
Big time. I mean, look, I wasn't gonna say that it was surprising what he did, right? I mean, that's his avenue to victory. But him coming in shape the way he was, I kind of wanted to see where that would take us, right? But right away, that fight ended quickly. What are you gonna say? I mean, the dude, I like everything he said. I like the way he performed in the cage, and he makes things interesting because he hasn't fought the current champ, so it kind of gives the division a little bit of a breath of fresh air, right? He seems focused. He seems happy. And when he's like that, I think he can do some pretty good things in the division. He's a guy that can you can't count him out no matter who he's fighting. So I like him. I like him being around. I know he collects a pretty decent paycheck. He's talked about not really wanting titles, but now he's kind of flip-flopped on that a little bit. So I really like the mindset that he's in. And I think this is a very quality win he can build off of.
Yeah, Tom Aspinall's beaten 5 of the top 10. So he's going to have to go through some retreads, right? Lapping people at some point. But Lewis is a fresh name. Nolan, how about you, man? Your reaction to the fight? We didn't get much of a fight, but what we got seemed to be pretty exciting. A nice little cherry on that Sunday.
Yeah, for sure. It was a good card. It was, I think on paper, maybe not the best fight night that we've ever seen, but I think it delivered some good highlights. And obviously with Derrick at the top of the card, he's a bit of an anomaly, man. Like Goes was saying, super serviceable for the UFC. I know when they go to these markets, that maybe, I'm not sure exactly what the deal is with Tennessee, if they have some sort of tourism deal with them to bring this event there, but you can kind of put him anywhere in a headlining situation against, a guy like Teixeira, or he fought Nascimento back in St. Louis last year. He's a guy that attracts eyeballs, and even for us inside the MMA community, right? I don't think many of us necessarily see Derrick going on to be a champion, but we tune in, we get something out of it. We enjoy watching him fight, and he's hilarious. So I think MMA needs more guys like Derrick Lewis, but there's only one Derrick Lewis. And every time that he steps in there, he seems to do something to catch our attention. So good for him. Good, it was a good finish. I didn't necessarily agree with the stoppage wholeheartedly, though. I thought Teixeira was getting up, and Jason Herzog kind of made a rare mistake there. I would have liked to see that one go on longer, but it is what it is. I guess we'll move on, and heavyweight division just keeps on rolling, and Teixeira will. I'm sure it won't take much for him to kind of turn around and find himself in a big slot like that again going forward.
All right, we'll definitely circle back on the stoppage. I definitely wanted to get to that. But then let's get your initial reaction, and then you lead things off regarding the stoppage, because I'm sure people want to hear us discuss that too.
Yeah. I was shocked going into this fight that Derrick Lewis was the underdog, and I predicted this. I thought he was going to win by knockout, and I don't know exactly what everyone picked on the MMA Junkie staff picks, but I know I threw out there the Derrick Lewis. pick. But yeah, dude, and I tweeted it also on Fight Night. Like, the dude is just the king at like knocking out Brazilian up and comers in random Fight Night events. Like, he's just gonna forever do that. He could be 60 and still be doing that. He always possesses that power. He knows how to use it well. He's not afraid to get into a firefight, and that at heavyweight is a great combination for knockouts, and that's why he holds the record for the most knockouts in UFC history. So shouts out to Derrick Lewis, still doing the damn thing, still entertaining us. I do agree with Nolan. The stoppage was a little bit premature, but it did seem like the fight was going to go one way. I didn't like Teixeira's chances on recovering it and rallying back, but I guess you never know. But yeah, I didn't think the stoppage was the worst thing in the world. He was using the cage to get up, kind of like Spider-Man, right? He was holding on to it. And look, if you needed the cage to be standing up, to have balance, I think that also speaks on how hurt you are. And Derrick Lewis was 35 seconds into the fight. He was not even close to gassing out or anything like that. So I think there would have been a lot more shots coming. So all in all, I thought it was a fine result. It was what I expected. I don't think it was the perfect stoppage, but I don't think it was a criminal stoppage, and I don't think it should get reviewed or anything like that. It was fine. Not all stoppages are going to be perfect.
I thought you might offer some resistance on that topic to what Nolan said, but it seems like you guys are in line. So allow me. I think what happened was he did get iced pretty good. Couple follow-ups right there. It looked like he went in and out. And with him using both hands to stand up, I think that was Herzog's way of saying, this is over because I can't stop the action right now and penalize you a point, possibly even two. So the fight's pretty much over right here because that's a fight-ending sequence. And if he stops it, to say, okay, hold on, a point here. These are heavyweights, man. One guy can come back from the dead, and then all of a sudden get the other guy. I think at that time, his action was pretty appropriate. How about you guys?
I think in the end, I was okay with it. I do feel like had there not been a cage to grab onto, he would not have gotten up. And you consider the amount of damage that comes from heavyweights, let alone Derrick Lewis. Each strike can be really, really, really devastating, right? And I think if he would have landed one more, he probably ended up saving Teixeira. And at the end of the day, Teixeira wasn't really complaining himself. So I was kind of okay with it.
Yeah. All right. I mean, are you guys... it doesn't look like Nolan and Danny want to die on this hill either, but any final thoughts on what we said? Or
as the replay was rolling there with the B-roll, I counted 14 unanswered shots. Well, somewhat unanswered, right? Because he was moving, but 14 shots that he took after the initial drop. So look, that's a lot of shots, especially from Derrick Lewis 30 seconds into a fight, right? So does it give you confidence that Teixeira, who's trying to stand up and holding himself up with the fences, to give you confidence that he's going to bounce back? I don't think so. I think the fight was going to get worse. I think Herzog could have let it gone a little longer to kind of clear those doubts. But like, if you just look at the footage, we all know where the fight was headed, and we've seen this play out 16 times before, right? We've seen this play out many times in Derrick Lewis' career and how things end up going.
I got to give a shout out to Kenny, man. That B-roll, you don't get it on any other show, and he worked for this. Cold Coffee's responsible for that. That's why you get it on this show, and you don't get it on any other shows. We can talk about the fights and actually see what happened there. Great stuff there. Like I said, I think we all just move on. And what do we do with Derrick Lewis, Nolan? You think there's a few heavyweights out there, not as popular, not as charismatic, that might be getting sidestepped? I'm not saying Lewis is next. I have a feeling that'll be gone. I think Volkov and Jailton probably get matched up. I think we covered this last week. But, dude, this guy took a call from the president. He's super popular. You see the way the fans react to him. And, again, he hasn't fought Aspinall. So are there some heavyweights getting nervous after the possible Gane booking?
Yeah, I mean, Derrick has done a good job, and I think a lot of it is on the fact that there's a new champion now, too. He's done a good job where I don't think he's like, if you were to have asked me a year ago, I would have said there wasn't really like a path to the title, like who's going to, want to we've seen Derrick go there before. Sometimes he even admits he's not interested. Like, it's kind of this weird dynamic, right? But at the same time, how many times is he going to go out there and beat a guy like a Teixeira, like a Nascimento, somebody that's on the build? So I don't know. He's in a weird spot. The division, I think, is kind of unofficially matched up, and it leaves guys like, would they run it back with Curtis Blades? I'm not really sure if what that would do for Curtis, or do you wait for, Marcin Tybura, who's fighting Ante Delija? Do you wait for that fight to play out? And Waldo Cortez is fighting Pavlovich, something in there. So there are a lot of options. I just, it comes down to kind of how the UFC wants to utilize Derrick. I wouldn't hate him doing kind of maybe one more of these sort of fights. Maybe not somebody that's totally off the, kind of brand new like Teixeira was, or in his sophomore fight, but someone, in the top 11 or 12, kind of use them in a similar scenario as they did on Saturday.
I'm reminded of when Poirier did the solid for the young guy and beat Benoit Saint-Denis, and because of the timing, it led to him getting a title shot. When before Benoit Saint-Denis, he got knocked out by Justin Gaethje. But if you're popular and you're in the right place at the right time, you never know. And I did not know about Waldo and Pav. That one's been booked.
Yeah, that's happening on the Shanghai card. So,
great matchup.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll definitely keep an eye on it, man. Black Beast has not stopped at 40 years old. He just ticked so many boxes.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds like he might still have one last title run left. All right. In the co-main event, Bonfim versus Thompson. Woo! Danny, you want to lead off here? Maybe defend your stance. You and I chatted about this.
Yeah. So yeah, if you go on MMA Decisions or just go on my Twitter, I usually submit my scoring after every fight, to MMA Decisions, so they can log it in and have that as a record, right? Me and another media member who is working for MMA Mania. I don't know the exact name. The exact name wasn't listed. It just said MMA Mania scoring, but we're the only two people out of 14 that scored it for Bonfim. Now, they scored it 30-27. I think that's actually pretty crazy. But I scored it 29-28. Bonfim, I agree with the two judges that gave those same scorecards to Bonfim, thus him winning a split decision. And I don't know. I mean, look, I could be mistaken, but like I haven't watched the fight again, and I would like to watch it again to get a better gauge, because apparently I'm insane. That's what people are saying online. But I thought Bonfim won 2 out of those 3 rounds. And keep in mind, I'm also doing the play-by-play for MMA Junkie, which requires me to kind of look away from the screen often. Obviously, I still see the fight on the side, kind of on the corner of my eye, and I still hear it. And I'm like typing in as much as I can and try to, do the play-by-play and show people kind of what's going on through text. So that can deviate a certain degree of attention to the fight. So I'll have to rewatch it again. I'm not going to die on that hill because, I leave room for error. I do make mistakes, believe it or not. So yeah, I'm just here to say that I scored the fight 29-28. I could be wrong. I don't know, but that's how I saw it. And 2 of the 3 judges agreed with me.
Thank you for clearing up that you make mistakes from time to time. We weren't aware of that.
You gotta put it out there.
But can we all agree that it was probably 1-1 though going into the last round? It comes down to that 3rd round, right? And there's different ways that's
why the 30-27 is ridiculous, honestly.
Yeah, that one didn't make too much sense. I just felt like the striking from Thompson, especially that head kick, just kind of outweighed what Bonfim did at the end, which was, he held him, he kept him from doing stuff, but he didn't really do too much offensively. I don't think it's like absolutely ridiculous to say Bonfim won. It just comes down to how you score that 3rd one. But I personally had Thompson slipping by.
All right. How about you, Nolan?
Yeah, I did as well. I agree with Goes. I didn't agree with the decision. I was very, it wasn't total domination, but I was confident in the scoring, right? And I think that's the biggest part. I'll have to go back and watch it too, just to make sure I wasn't missing anything. But my initial watch was going into that decision. I was pretty confident that Thompson had won.
Yeah. I mean, I hope the UFC kind of treats it as maybe not necessarily he won, but don't penalize him like he lost. I mean, I think he's 41, if I'm not mistaken. He looked pretty damn good, and he looks like he can still entertain. And in my opinion, he's kept his place. So good for Wonder Boy, because I think we all were wondering, when things are going to catch up to him. And he still puts on a show, man. He can still get them legs up there and head kick you quickly. Very, very impressive. What's next for Bonfim, though? I mean, he technically won, and he just fought a veteran, but is he really ready for the top 10, top 5, or the welterweight? Because no disrespect to Thompson, I just gave him some flowers. But at the same time, it's Thompson wouldn't be able to beat some of them guys at the top. What do you think, Goes?
Well, look, I mean, I think he can battle with some of those guys. You just have to look at it as Stephen Thompson is just difficult. You know, he kind of does that to a lot of people. He's awkward. I thought he did about as good as you can in that situation. I don't know that it screams give me someone in the top 15, but I don't think it's one of those where we.
Oh, Gilbert Burns.
Yeah, I didn't want to bring up that name because I felt bad.
Magny for so many years, it's be like, hey, bros, check this guy at the door, see if he's for real. Check his ID.
Yeah, you got to give him one of those names. I would probably lean more towards like a Gilbert Burns, and then on the other side, Thompson. It's like I don't know that you really treat this as a loss. Sometimes you can kind of catch Dana White's tone, and he seemed to be impressed with what Thompson did. So I don't think it sets him back either.
Danny, you got any names? And by the way, Danny, let me ask you this question. I just thought of it, honestly, but is this where it hurts the Brazilian fighters or a lot of the fighters that don't connect with our language? And look at a guy like Jean Silva, doesn't speak a lick of English, but he's charismatic. And who wouldn't want to fight him at this point? I mean, look at the doors he's opened for himself, right? By being active, being dangerous, and connecting. This guy, his English obviously could be a lot better, but he doesn't connect like a Jean Silva. So like a Colby Covington, who was on the downward, probably doesn't want anything to do with him. He just wants to fight other big names.
Yeah, I mean, being a draw, there's people that have called out other fighters that are not in the rankings, but that have a big name. I mean, remember, this is going to be such a throwback, but remember Artem Lobov? Like, a lot of people wanted to fight the guy just because he had a big name and he was well known, as opposed to fighting number 15, number 14, because there was a lot more to gain in terms of popularity and stuff. So yeah, 100%. We know that a lot of this is marketing, right? And we see it in the UFC's decisions to put main events or even sometimes give title shots. So on that end, yeah, like he's going to have a longer road since he doesn't connect as much with the fans compared to others. But all in all, like, look, the guy's young, 3-fight win streak. Like, he's 27. Like, the guy's got time. Like, it's not like this decision, even if it was controversial, career ending or anything like that. It's still a win in a co-main event of the UFC over Wonderboy Thompson. I think in the future we'll kind of forget about it a little bit, maybe. But yeah, no, I think the guy deserves a big fight. I wouldn't put him against Gilbert Burns. I'd like to give Gilbert Burns at this point like a veteran fight. Same thing with Neil Magny. Those guys need a break. Come on. But I don't know. Looking at some of the matchups, we got Jeff Neal and Brachi's going at it at 319. Maybe take the loser. Who else is out there in the rankings? There's a few names that make sense. Same thing with Holland and Daniel Rodriguez, who are fighting this weekend. Maybe take the loser of that. I don't know. Or the winner. Who knows? I think one of those names is probably more appropriate right now for where he's at.
Nolan, what about Stephen Thompson? Again, not to shit on the guy, but he's past his prime. He can still perform. I was wrong, by the way. He's 42. But he does have a fan-pleasing style if you get him in against someone else that will oblige the dance. Can you think of a name, or what do we do with this guy? Because it sounds like he still wants to fight, but he can also still draw for the UFC.
Nolan, there's one right answer, and you know it.
I mean, are you talking about Colby Covington or no? Because I don't necessarily love that style matchup.
No. Well, that ain't it.
Well, MVP
or
it's gotta be MVP, bro.
Yeah. They've always. I feel like they've flip flopped a bit on wanting to do that. They seem like they didn't when MVP first came in because of their. I don't know. They had some sort of past connection from the karate world, and I think they've opened up a little bit more since then. But yeah, I mean, that would be a fantastic fight. The good thing about Thompson is he's in this interesting position where he's got the name recognition. He's still a ranked fighter. So I think the UFC can kind of use him wherever they want, right? They could throw him in against somebody in the top 10 in theory and say, oh, this is Stephen Thompson, the former welterweight title challenger. And most matchups, I don't think he'd get blown out of the water or beaten up. Like, I think the takedown thing is still a bit of a problem. Or you can use him the other way. You give him somebody that's kind of on the 16 to 20 range, or somebody that's surging up the ladder. Or you match him up with what I would do is give him somebody that's kind of a veteran, right? Like an MVP like a Gilbert Burns. I believe they fought maybe before, right? So I don't know. I don't know what you do with him, but he's not in a bad spot. I think you have a number of different options that you can put him really anywhere in the division.
What do you guys think of him versus Leon Edwards?
I like it.
Be fun.
Yeah.
I think he gets the job done, right? Both guys kind of coming off a loss, and multiple losses for Edwards. But I think they could headline like a fight night in London or something.
Yeah.
I think people would watch.
Yeah, it's not a bad shot.
Another
I like
highlight.
MVP, but I feel like as good as the fight as it could be, it could also be absolutely horrific.
It could be, yeah, 100%. But that's I'm as a fan, I'm willing to take that risk for potentially some crazy karate fight.
Yeah.
Big shout out to Darius the Great, who is in New Orleans, or he's from New Orleans. Brian John, I see his name here all the time. Please share this link with your friends that are MMA fans. They can catch the show every Monday. It's live. And if you hit the like button right now, it would be a tremendous help. Fudia MMA, shout out to you as well. Anshul Jubilee's gas station. Cesar Sanchez chiming in. Future Sequence, another new name there in the chat room. Another highlight from Nashville goes, what did you want to put a spotlight on?
Steve Garcia. That dude is like a silent assassin. And I know we're used to seeing him come out and just clean somebody's clock, but I really feel like this type of fight is something he needed to give him a little bit more experience. It's a good opponent. I think he's going to be ranked now. He was very strategic, and I think at moments we were able to see as the fight played out him make his adjustments. Those combinations that he was putting together, man, like eight strike combinations at some point. I think this kid has a very high ceiling. The only problem is you don't want to be one of them guys that's fighting for the title on like a 12 fight win streak, right? Like, I mean, eventually he's got to take that next step up. And I think now's the time for that.
That's a good one. How about you, Nolan?
Walter Walker, man. I mean, talk about like just my kind of MMA, right? Just kind of nonsense in the heavyweight division. But this dude, man, he's super technical. And the fact that he can, he's pulled off, 3 unique leg submissions in a row is just unbelievable. He's got a great character. He's got the thing going with his brother, Johnny. And I just think he's such a unique threat to the UFC heavyweight division. And the way he fought on Saturday, if he keeps that up, that level of aggression, that level of excitement, I think he's somebody that everybody's going to have to tune in to see. And these heavyweights are going to have problems, dealing with the heel hooks. And it's just awesome. He's become like a guy that's going to be circled on my bout sheet going forward. Just great performance, super unique character and super unique fighter.
14-1, now on a 3-fight win streak. And yeah, he is dangerous on the ground. Almost reminds me of Husamar Palhares and just the fear he would put into some fighters. You really got to prep for this guy. Again, 27, speaks like 3 or 4 languages. He's made a nice little comeback after losing his debut. How about you, Danny?
I'm going to shout out Vitor Petrino. And I know that like beating Austin Lane is probably not like one of the better wins you could get in the UFC, but still, I was pretty disappointed, not going to lie, with his previous 2 performances at light heavyweight, losing by submission to Anthony Smith and then getting knocked out by Justin Jacoby after a hot start of 4-0 in the UFC. You thought this guy was the real deal. Then you get really disappointed with those 2 performances, 1 submission, 1 knockout loss. And you go, maybe this guy was all smoke. Maybe it was all looks. And then the looks were still present at heavyweight. The guy looks like an absolute unit, massive, but he fought well. I thought he made the right decisions. I thought his jiu-jitsu looked on point. And yeah, he got a nice submission win over Austin Lane. And I'm not going to say this guy's a future champion or anything like that, but like Nolan, I'm going to circle his name and watch out for future bouts for him in cards. Cause I mean, 1 or 2 wins, you never know. I mean, the heavyweight's so thin, you can easily get in the rankings with 2 more wins and you're talking big fights.
And now is the time to try it because he was on a 2-fight losing streak at light heavyweight. So you might as well give it a shot if you had always thought about doing so. All right, I want to give a shout out to Chris Curtis moving to 170, also moving to Thailand. It looked like he just readjusted and reshifted a lot of things going on in his life. He'll still do his camps at Extreme Couture, but he's living in Thailand for now. And at 170, he looked good. There were times where he's still hesitating a little bit too much, and because a lot of his fights do go to a decision, sometimes it comes back to bite you. But when he needed to step on the gas, he did. I know that Max Griffin was a little disappointed because he had taken control of that fight early on, but Chris Curtis found a way to come back and win. So good for him. We got to move on though, man. Topic 2. Recent bookings and signings. We got some nuggets to cover from the bare knuckle world, and then we'll pivot back to MMA. Danny, BKFC was in your hood, and they definitely had some star power there, man. I did see a lot of your work. Great job out there. A lot of stuff on MMA Junkie. McGregor, Perry, Romero, Trout, Palomino, Dodson. All pretty big names from the MMA and boxing world. How big of a splash was this down in SoFla?
I thought it was pretty big. They had a lot of signings, and they're certainly doing things right. They made this press conference feel big. They had most of their champions, if not all, there. They announced several signings and the $25 million tournament. So they had a lot of nuggets there for the media to cover. It wasn't just a press conference, just to provide some face-offs and some quotes. And we got that too, by the way. I think BKFC, if you look at the art of promoting, they are doing a fantastic job. Now, I still don't absolutely love the product itself in terms of like bare knuckle boxing. I have grown to it, and I do like it, but it's not MMA still my thing, obviously. But I gotta say, like, in terms of like outside of the UFC, who are the best promoters right now? If you're counting PFL, all these other local promotions, I would say that BKFC are probably doing the best job at it. I really do think they're doing a great job. So I thought all in all it was a home run for the product, and it made headlines. I mean, especially in a week that was kind of slow for MMA news. I saw them stealing a lot of the headlines and front page slots for some sites. So good for them, man.
Which one of these signings do you think will pop the most for their organization? Yoel Romero, Thiago Santos, Derek Brunson, Aspen Ladd were 4 that they announced.
All of those are going to make headlines, especially when they get bookings. Yes, of course, because they got big names. But the one that really screams out potential, that screams out fun, knockout violence, BKFC is Aspen. I'm just kidding. It's Yoel Romero. I mean, come on, that dude, the guy is absolutely massive still. Like, I was interviewing, his forearms are like this big. Dude's an absolute unit. He's not cutting weight, so I feel like he's got a lot of healthy fat on him, so he just looks even more stockier. Because he obviously used to fight at 185. Now he's been fighting in heavier weight classes, and recently in dirty boxing at heavyweight. Dude, I think he's gonna have some brutal knockouts. And I interviewed David Feldman, and the guy just signed, and there are already people turning him down. And fight him, and I don't blame them. I mean, who the hell wants to fight?
And he's 48, I think, right?
48, yeah. He wants to fight till 52. Bernard Hopkins. That's his goal.
I think Thiago Santos has a chance to be a decent signing for them too, because I think Aspen Ladd's more grappling oriented, and Derek Brunson's definitely more wrestling oriented. Sure. Not to say they obviously can't throw hands. I was pointing to an example of Paige Van Zandt. She was more from the grappling world, but she went out there and she became a star for them. So anything can happen, man, once the flesh gets cut by the
for sure. Not to shit on any of the other signings, but I think the Yoel Romero one is one that it's like it makes sense, right? Like you saw when they signed like Mike Perry, right? And you go, this makes sense. Or when they signed Eddie Alvarez, this makes sense. Luke Rockhold, you're like, oh, okay, good name, but whatever. Yoel Romero is one of those where you go, this guy's built for this. Like, if this sport would have been around, 20 years earlier in terms of its size, like, he probably would have been someone that, again, we haven't even seen him fight, but I'm just assuming, right? Like, he looks like he's built for this.
Mm-hmm. How would you rank them, Nolan? Or what did you think of those signings? Do you think any of them will make a splash?
Yeah, I think it's good. I think Bellator obviously used to lean into kind of the old guy fights or the old, UFC fighters. And I think that it's a great plan to attract eyeballs, right? And if you can do that without having it be these guys like who the BKFC signed when they first launched, right? Like, we don't need to see, Joe Riggs or Melvin Gillard or those sort of names where you're like, these guys have taken like tremendous amount of damage, right? These are all fighters, I think, the signings that they made the other day where you're like, I feel comfortable having these guys compete. There's still intrigue. There's still guys that take this seriously. So I like the signings a lot, just I could echo everything Danny said about Yoel. what you said about Thiago. I actually really like the Derek Brunson one too. Like he's not obviously his background is wrestling, but we saw him get pretty chaotic with his striking in MMA and provide us with some absolutely insane sequences where you're like, Derek, what are you doing? Why are you throwing these strikes? You should be wrestling. And he's out there chucking bombs. So now that he has no option but to throw hands, I'm intrigued to see what he does. And good for him. I think he's a good fighter and somebody that just in that landscape of MMA didn't really have a home, even though he still had some left in the tank. So I'm excited to see him land in bare knuckle too. I think he'll provide some craziness for us.
Goes, you saw how cool it was for Austin Trout to show up and do his work, right? Apply some of the sweet science to the bare knuckle ring. But at the same time, man, a slobber knocker is a slobber knocker. It is entertainment. What do you think? You think David Feldman's got the right recipe for just figuring out who wants to spill blood for him and his fans?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Yoel Romero is just that. That's what you look for, right? That guy that can throw those power hooks, uppercut game's got to be on point. Your background in MMA could be gi jiu-jitsu, right? Once you're in that ring, BKFC just brings out the dog in you. You have no choice. There's nowhere to run. There's nowhere to hide. So these guys are going to turn into strikers really fast. I think Romero was the best one. Santos, I think, can do some things. Brunson, I like Brunson, and I think the dog will come out him in one fight, but I don't think he's going to like this much, and I don't think Aspen Ladd is either. I mean, this sport can be really brutal at times, and some people feed off of that, like a Mike Perry, and then I think others kind of get their taste for it, and then they're done.
We'll talk a little bit more about BKFC and their big tournament that they have coming up. Again, Danny Segura was out there covering the event for MMA Junkie, announcements, a fight card, big weekend for those guys. Of course, Conor McGregor hanging around. Anything can happen with him. Just check your social media. Another signing in the UFC, Buchecha, one of the top grapplers in the world, Nolan, comes over from one championship. They've had an exodus over the last 5 years, slowly, whether it's retirements or fighters just coming back, right? Sage Northcutt, Eddie Alvarez, Demetrius Johnson, Reiner Ritter. This is their latest. Now, this guy's very decorated from the grappling world, and he's obviously turned to MMA a few years ago, but he fights Martin Boudet, I think is his name. Your thoughts on that signing and that fight?
Yeah, it's great. It's great for the UFC. I think it's great for the fans. It's kind of, again, reinforcing the sad state of MMA, right? The UFC's really capitalized recently on kind of the failure of the rest of the just with the way the MMA landscape is right now, right? There's one big player, there's one championship that's kind of MMA wise is kind of dying. You got Ryzen, you got Cage Warriors kind of down there. It's PFL, but the UFC is getting a lot of these guys that entered free agency. And Buchecha is a fantastic signing. Heavyweight division, you need fighters. I know he's a little bit older. He hasn't had a ton of miles on him in the MMA world, though, and he'll attract eyeballs from the grappling community. So I really like the fight. It's just, I think it's been in the works for a little bit, but it's only a couple weeks away now. So good addition to heavyweight, and I'm excited to kind of see how quickly he can get up that ladder at what is he, like 36 or something?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think either 35 or 36, but heavyweight he doesn't have much mileage, and heavyweights can go a little further, so it might work out. All right, Lauren Murphy retired. Any thoughts on her career? She fought for a title. She had a nice win streak. She had a run. I think, respectfully, she's added to women's MMA, in her own way.
Yeah, I mean, she's fought a who's who in mixed martial arts, right? And she's done it over different time periods of the sport, which I think is very impressive. And it seems like she wants to continue being somebody that spreads MMA knowledge throughout the world. She wants to get into reffing and judging, and I think that's real commendable. And I hope she does do that because we do need more of that.
Danny, I believe it was you and I were discussing when we put together the rundown. Was Lauren one of the first Invicta champs or something like that? Was that you?
Yeah,
that told me that?
She was the inaugural Invicta FC bantamweight champion.
I still remember their team was Mauro Ranallo, King Mo, and it might have been Julie Kedzie like their original announced team way a long time ago. So I didn't know she had that kind of history with them too.
Yeah, I mean, winning a title in Invicta holds a lot of weight, given the talent that has.
At that time, heck yeah.
So yeah, that also she fought for a title. I know it was very one-sided when she fought Valentina, but still she got to a point where she got to challenge for a UFC belt. Man, I know people sometimes we're used to like talking about greatness in John Jones and GSP and stuff like that, but that career, like that run is I'm sure a lot of fighters would be jealous of that run, like to win an Invicta FC title and then fight for a UFC title and stay in for the promotion inside of the UFC for how many years? Almost a decade, over a decade. That's pretty commendable. That's pretty respectable. So shouts out to Lauren Murphy and all the best in retirement.
Yeah. And just to close things out, like Danny mentioned earlier in the show, Jeff Neal or maybe it was Nolan and Carlo Praches have been rebooked for UFC 319. They were supposed to fight a few months ago. Neal fell off. Praches lost to Ian Gary. But he looks to bounce back from that. Obviously, that's a big star for the UFC because he's part of the Fighting Nerds team that's just been on fire. So this was, I think, the first official loss they've taken while they've all been part of the UFC. Not in their careers, but while they've been part of the UFC. So I expect them to bounce back. That is a talented team, man, the Fighting Nerds. They get it. And then one last thing, if you didn't catch it, I think it was big. Waldo Acosta Cortez, did I say that right? He's fighting Sergey Pavlovich in China. Man, that's a big, big fight. I don't know how that one slipped through the cracks, but that's why you should tune in to MMA Junkies Spinning Back Clique every Monday, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. We still got 20 minutes to go, 2 more topics to get to, but it's not too late to share this with your friends via a DM or a retruth or a re-X or a repost, anything. It definitely helps us out, and we really, really appreciate it. Let's continue here. Here we go again, Nolan. Sorry, I'm gonna start with you. I don't know if you're gonna believe the words that are gonna come out of my mouth, but last week we kind of teased it. The White House card, Nolan, this thing's picking up steam, man. In July of 2026, there's some headwinds here coming from the Southwest now, as Dana White, the UFC president, has opined on the topic. Donald Trump, the president of the United States, had mentioned that he wanted to have a UFC a few weeks ago, and we just thought, well, that's just something that he said, but who knows? This thing's starting to really, really pick up steam. Let me throw a couple quotes from Dana and Nolan, and then I'll have you lead things off. He says, quote, I mean, everybody wants to be on this card. This is post-fight press conference in Nashville. He continues, you don't even have to know who's blowing up my phone. You just see it all over the internet, but this fight's a year away. The landscape will change over the next year. We wouldn't even start building the card. It's literally a year away. Not worth talking about. But Nolan, the landscape's talking, man. A lot of these big guns want to fight there.
Yeah, I mean, again, like I'm trying to, as crazy as it is, right, to think about UFC fights taking place at the White House, just in terms of the magnitude. And if you were to go back in the time machine 12 years ago and see this going down, you would be like, what just happened over the past decade? I'm trying to think of what would be the roadblocks to the current president doing this, right? Like, I don't know. I think it can be done in some capacity. I don't think that it's off the wall that they could hold a smaller, maybe shorter card with some fights somewhere there. I feel like we need more information before I start totally saying it's going to happen. But I don't think it's something that, given the fact of the landscape of what we've seen, right, with the UFC's relationship with the current president and the current president's just wanting to, if he wants to do something, it seems like this, he does it. We just saw him at the FIFA championship up there on stage with the team when they were like didn't seem like they even necessarily maybe wanted him there, some of the players. So I don't know. I feel like it could happen. I feel like I need more information, and we need to get a little bit closer before I'm totally leaning that it's going to.
Well, this is what Dana White also added. He says it will be a pay-per-view card, the best card we can possibly put together. So right away I started thinking UFC 300. Donald Trump said 25,000. I don't know if they can build a little 25,000 seat stadium on the White House lawn. I doubt it. There's a lot of room there where anything's possible, but and I don't know if they would have some of it where the Capitals play and then maybe just a few fights on the White House lawn. I don't know, but you could tell the wheels are spinning the way they were when they were trying to create the Sphere, just kind of figuring that out as they were. But he also says, we're just getting into logistics now. My team's already worked with the White House and the staff there. Now we're putting together the design. We'll all fly out to DC and sit with him and see what he wants to do. He also told the Full Send podcast that Donald Trump put Ivanka in charge. So the UFC team's gonna work with Ivanka, Craig Borsari, who's his head of production. They're all gonna fly out and start figuring this thing out. Danny, are you pumped about this, or could this be bigger than maybe we're brushing it off like it's not going to be as big of a deal, but maybe it will be pretty historical?
I mean, I'm kind of shocked, like, about some of these quotes, to be honest. Like, when I first heard it, I just thought it was something Trump said off the cuff, and just, to keep associating his name with the UFC, since that's been a good arm, a good arm for him to kind of promote himself among a certain audience. But then you hear what Dana White's saying, like, they're actually taking this thing seriously. And I was one of the skeptics of saying, dude, this is never going to happen. A bunch of friends hit me up. They're like, oh, UFC event at the White House. I'm like, nah, that's not going to happen. But now all of a sudden I'm like, maybe they're actually talking about it like it's a real thing. So again, the thing is still a year away. So let's wait and see. I still have some doubts, but it does seem like they want to turn this into a reality. And to be honest, I don't really know how I feel about it beyond that. Like, it's a weird one, right? Like, this is, the whole thing of like, oh, don't mix politics and sports. This is like the most mixing politics and sport, literally hosting an event at the White House.
He did say that Jones and Aspinall would be perfect for that card. I don't know if it has to do with 250 years.
I'm
Revolutionary
gonna.
War,
This
UK.
is where I mute myself. I'm not talking about John Jones.
Okay. Goes, any opinion? Is that the best main event they can put together?
I mean, honestly,
we don't know the theme right now, but it's a celebration of 250 years of the United States. 1776 to 2026. So I don't think it has to be England, USA. It could just be, let's focus on USA. Our only champ right now is Kayla Harrison. Mm-hmm. She's probably going to fight Amanda Nunes before next July. But I would imagine she could be on the card as well. Former Olympian,
Well, Ivanka, I mean, dude, I don't even know where to start with this, guys. Because to me, look, even if everything were to go as planned, you're still dealing with an older John Jones. You're still dealing with John Jones as the guy that you're depending on to deliver for something of this magnitude. If they were able to pull it off, I wouldn't feel very comfortable doing that. Would you guys? Like, maybe I would focus on like a Kayla Harrison or somebody else. I do feel like there does have to be some kind of American in that main event. But I'm sort of with Nolan. When I first heard this, I was thinking maybe have one big fight at the top and then the rest of it, just decent. I just don't know that if you want to put together this massive pay-per-view card with these big names, don't you want the fans screaming and yelling in an arena? You want that type of intensity. I don't know that we'll get that from the White House. So I'm kind of against that part of it. But I do feel like it does sound like something that's going to happen. It's just, like Dana said, it's a year away and the landscape of MMA changes so much that it's hard to predict. But it just
Derrick
seems like
Lewis
there's a lot
on the card too now.
That would be fun. It just seems like there's a lot of obstacles here.
I could see Cejudo and a few other guys playing the Olympic card, the I Am American card, to get on this thing. But literally Jones and Connor both woke up and actually said they'd like to fight on this card. I mean, I don't know. Let's move on from it. I mean, as we get more info, we'll share it. We're not going to force it down your throats, but I thought Dana chiming in and saying they got a logistics team and the president's daughter's involved. I was like, okay, this thing's a lot more serious than just a wishful thought from the president. Ben Askren's recovering. He's put out some videos, Nolan, and slowly but surely, he's, I guess, getting healthier. I mean, obviously still looks pretty emaciated from being in a coma for so long and the double lung transplant. I think he said he was at 147 pounds the first video I saw. He's starting to fill in a little bit, but your thoughts on this? Dana White apparently was asked to if he helped with the recovery, and he seemed hesitant to talk about it, but he admitted that he did help. We heard Jake Paul might have as well. Your thoughts on Funky?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I'm glad he's still here. I think that video, the first one that he posted, the update, just watching that was one of the more powerful things I've seen. Right, it's big time. It's just such a mixed emotions watching that. Where on one hand you're like, I feel so bad for this guy. He looks so different than he did 50 days prior. On the other hand, he's alive, and it's crazy that they can do something like that, right? Like a lung transplant and save somebody's life. And it goes to show you how quick things can change too, right? Like 40-year-old healthy guy, professional athlete, one of the greatest American wrestlers ever, and gets pneumonia. You know, there still seems to be a little bit of rumors about exactly kind of the sequence of events that led there. There's some people saying staph or whatever, but regardless, I mean, this dude's, you know, couple of weeks prior his life was normal, and then all of a sudden here he is, you know, fast forward a couple months, and him saying that he didn't remember anything that happened, and it was like him that he was able to attend his own funeral, reading all the nice things people had said about him. You know, he's somebody that I know you guys, George and Goes, probably know him a lot better than I do. I've kind of more been on the outskirts and just know people that are around him and stuff. But there's from fighters to people in the industry. There's a lot of people that had a lot of, even before this happened, had a lot of nice things to say about Ben Askren. So I'm happy that he's doing better. The last video, he did look like he had improved some more. So, you know, I think if he continues on this trajectory, he'll have a pretty special, you know, story to share with people. And I'm just happy to see that he's still here and moving in the right direction.
Well said. Danny, tell us a little bit more about BKFC and their $25 million tournament. I saw you talking to Ben Rothwell there. He seems to think he's one of the favorites. Is this thing open weight or what's going on here?
Sort of open weight, but they do cap it. Like you have to weigh above 185 pounds, and after that, any weight goes.
Wow.
Yes, 32 fighters, $25 million. They're gonna give out. Not the winner, 25 million throughout. So first place will take 15 million, second 1 million, third and fourth will share 500K. Fifth through eighth will be 300K. 9th through 16th 200K, and 17th through 32nd place 100K. So like these guys are getting money no matter what, which is good. Yeah, I believe this has to be the most expensive tournament in combat sports ever. Like I know Bellator did the 1 million, but like 25 million handed out over all these fighters, and especially the first place taking 15 million. I mean, that's insane. And I do think Ben Rothwell, dude, he's probably the favorite to win the whole thing. So we'll see. I'm excited to see how this unfolds. We see how much money can affect the way people fight, how much they invest in it. So I'm sure it's going to be a badass tournament. And again, shouts out to BKFC for trying new things, for spicing things up. Looking forward to see how this shakes out.
Yeah. Goes one other story that's out there, an unfortunate one. Tim Kennedy, former Strikeforce and UFC middleweight, has not had a good week. On Monday, he posted an apology. Some are questioning if it was a full apology or whatever, but that's what he posted, an apology about exaggerating parts of his service in the military, lying about receiving a Bronze Star Medal with Valor. The National Guard in Baltimore, where he's based now, he does special operations, a detachment unit that liaises with NATO. And that's why you see him doing special forces operations or whatever. They're investigating him a little bit right now as well. And they also had a comment on this. They said the Maryland National Guard takes these matters seriously, said Major Benjamin Hughes, the Guard spokesman. Integrity is a core value of our organization, so an investigation is currently underway to review the facts surrounding these public misstatements. What are your thoughts here on Tim Kennedy and what's happened?
I mean, every conversation we've ever had with him, he struck me as an intelligent guy. And what I don't understand is how he could have thought he could get away with any of this in this day and age with so much information at everybody's fingertip. It's just it's baffling. This is something that we've been around a lot of people who have served, not just, served in the military, but served in combat situations. And they take this very, very seriously amongst that brotherhood. So to see him do that was just absolutely shocking and mind-boggling. But you got to think going forward, like fighting's gone away, right? A lot of people know him for what he's doing now. And yeah, he gave an apology, and some people didn't like the beginning of the apology, but 95% of it was really good. It's just moving forward, it's going to be difficult to trust him. and the things that he says because of what he did, and it's something he's going to have to live with, you know. And hopefully it doesn't get any worse with some of this investigation that happens, but it really caught me off guard.
The problem with the apology that a lot of people are having a problem with is he said, I unintentionally mentioned what I just went over. You don't unintentionally, man. He was asked that and he confirmed it in one interview and he's brought it up in other interviews. And see, the badassery was always there. He was an MMA fighter, for crying out loud, a pretty successful one. And he was a Green Beret and he did finish Ranger School. So like right away, like huge respect to his service and everything. All the things that he added, the little bells and whistles, apparently, like you said, a lot of people in that community take that very, very serious, you know, and you can't just pad your stats like that. We'll see how this plays out, but it was big news. And I saw some people in the chat asking us to comment on it. And we'll definitely, when we hear stuff, we'll share more with you all. But I think we can all agree that definitely was out of line on his part. We got to turn, though, the page to UFC 318. It's this Saturday, and Goz and I will be hosting a watch-along on Saturday starting at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We'll watch the fights along with you. If you choose not to get the pay-per-view at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific, stay with us. We'll tell you what's happening in real time. What's your excitement level for this, Danny Segura? We always start with that one, right? 1 through 10 on paper. You've looked at the card. The fights haven't happened. No blood's been spilled yet. No headbutts at the face-offs. But on paper, and going into this fight week, what are you thinking?
This is a pay-per-view, so we do got to be a little bit demanding in terms of like what we should get as far as quality. So I would say a 7.8. I'm very excited for that main event. I think it's very good, but man, that the rest of it is lacks some action. But I get it. You know, this is Dustin Poirier's farewell from the sport, a legend, a guy that's given us, I mean, countless fight nights and countless memories in the sport. So it's all about him, right? So all in all, I think it's a fine pay-per-view, but not very stacked, to be honest.
How did you arrive at that 0.8? Like you felt it was better than a 7, but not enough to make it an 8.
It can't get me to the 8. No, can't get me to the 8. Okay. Maybe a shove or something at the press.
How about you, Nolan? You fired up? You got a 7.9 or an 8.25 or?
I'd say like a 6.9. It's a good card, but again, like Danny said, I mean, we, take for granted this is our job. We have a company that, we don't have to dump out $60 out of our pocket every day, right? This is a work expense for us. But if I was a fan and I was having to shell out this money to see a pay-per-view, would I want to spend, when I compare the money I could spend on past pay-per-views versus this one, it would be harder for me to dump out the money out of my pocket for this one. I think obviously the UFC, it's great that they're doing this fight in New Orleans. Very cool. That main event will be awesome. A good send away, very unique thing that we don't see from the UFC that I would like to see more of. But at the same time, the supporting acts, I don't think necessarily are there. There's some good fights, don't get me wrong, some intriguing fights. We've gone through some of them. But, I just think it's not necessarily the level like when I heard that they were doing this big card in New Orleans and, Dustin Poirier's retirement. You'd think that they would maybe put a little bit more on it for the fans. Not a bad card. The matchups are good. There's some fun fighters. There's some meaningful fights, but just not – it doesn't necessarily have that thing to push me over into the 7s.
Goz, your thoughts? I know you're not a big BMF fan.
Oh, no, I am not. 7.3 for me. I'm basically echoing everything the guys just said. It's a fight that we've all seen before, and the supporting cast is just okay. It's not really what we're used to. So I think maybe things can change for me. I don't expect them to shove. I think they're going to be very respectful. So I think we're going to lose out a little bit on that. So maybe my opinion won't change too much throughout the week, but I'll definitely tune in.
This is a 5.5 in my opinion, maybe a 6.
5.5,
dude. Okay, the BMF thing for one. I'll steal this from Goz. Holloway lost to Topuria. I don't know that he has the belt, and to top it off, he's defending it. 2, we've already seen this twice. One guy's 0-2 against the other one. This needed to be maybe a co-main event, but we needed a proper title fight at the top, or you give us this BMF and then you pad the bottom. Look, guys, Costa versus Kopolov is the co-main event. That's not solid. All right, last week, the Nashville card, I looked at it, I was like, that's dookie. But I tuned in, and guess what? Next Monday, I might come in and go, hey, that was one hell of a card, like I am today about the Nashville card. There was KOs, there was submissions. I loved it. But on paper, I'm not a big fan. I think the UFC could have definitely done better. New Orleans is a proper city. I think for coming there and bringing Dustin Poirier, I thought they could have done a lot better. I really think this is just not worth the $80. I know you can get in there for 70. I think ESPN Plus has been doing this special for the last couple of years, but I'm not wowed by it. Of course, the fighters are the ones that can shut me up and do something about it. And who knows? Like I say, my story might be different on Monday. But chat room, I'm interested in what you guys think. What would you rate it from 1 to 10? You've heard all of our opinions. Let's hear what you guys think. Danny, BMF title, are you feeling that?
No, I'm with Ghost. Like, what is it? Can we get some parameters around this? Like, what does it mean exactly? What are we doing with it? How many title defenses are going to be? Is it a fixed thing in this sport now, and we're going to see a BMF title fight every year? Like, there's still so many answers to it, like so many questions around it. I mean, it does just feels like a
Can I
get
jump
out of
in?
jail free card for the UFC for when they don't have a proper title fight. They just go, fuck it, let's just get 2 badass fighters, which, by the way, everyone in the UFC is a badass. It's different degrees, but everyone's a badass. And then they just throw it on there, be like, see, a championship fight headlining this card. That's what it feels like. It doesn't have the same weight as it did when they first launched it in 2019 with Nate Diaz and Jorge Masvidal. So no, I'm not digging it. I'm not a big fan of it. I don't like it.
Is BMF, isn't it anytime, any place? So that being said, you cannot take the night off when you're the BMF. You can't say, nah, it's not on the line tonight. That's not how BMF works.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what the situation is. It doesn't matter who the opponent is. If fucking King Kong walks in, it doesn't matter. You got to fight him. You're the BMF. You can't, like, I was telling George last night, if I walked into a room with Topuria and Max Holloway, and I said, oh my God, it's the BMF. Hey, Ilya, can you take a picture of me and him? Do you know how ridiculous that would look and how I would feel for Topuria? I'm sorry. I'm not saying Topuria should be the BMF now. I'm just saying take that belt and put it back into circulation. But you can't just promote it like that when the guy just took a loss.
It seems like lazy promoting just to fill a card. And like I say, the UFC could have done better. Derrick Lewis was originally from Louisiana, but they probably needed to fill Nashville. And so they're always playing catch up, and they don't properly stack certain cards the way they should. I am looking forward to the one in Chicago, though. That one's pretty money. Your prediction, Nolan, on this one, quick, please.
I'm going to say Dustin gets it done. I think we're going to actually have a storybook ending for once. When, not sure, maybe late, or maybe we'll say decision. I'll play it safe here. But yeah, I'm gonna lean with Dustin. I think we'll get a rare, heartwarming MMA moment.
Sorry about that, Nolan. Okay, how about you, Danny?
Oh, good.
I think Dustin gets a stoppage. I feel like Ilya kind of cracked that chin, and once that's cracked, we've seen it, right? Like especially with guys that are very durable. Like remember Chuck Liddell? Like nobody could stop him. And once he gets stopped once, all of a sudden, he's losing a lot by knockout. Again, I'm not wishing this upon Max Holloway. Max Holloway is historically one of my favorite fighters. I'd love to see us go to a decision and both get their hand raised somehow, both win. I like both these guys, but if you're asking me my analyst perspective, I think Poirier is going to go in there and with all, and I think he's going to get a stoppage win.
What do you think, Goes?
I'm going to go against these guys. I think there's too much pressure on Dustin Poirier, and Max Holloway is going to use that pressure to make him fight the fight that he wants. When he points to the ground, Dustin's going to have to dance because of the magnitude of this card and what was put on the line. He's going to fight Max Holloway's fight, and that's not the type of fight you need to fight if you want to beat this guy.
Pressure makes diamonds, Goes.
Fast Mama Jama in the chat says it's a 5 out of 10. Anshul Jubilee's gas station says it'd be 10 out of 10 if it was a fight night, but it's a 5 out of 10. So I'm getting some fist bumps there. Listen, should Poirier reconsider retirement and favorite moment of Poirier's career? This is my bad, guys. I fell behind on the topics. So we're going to cover those next week when we talk about the fight. I got a feeling it's going to be a great fight. But Real quick, what's at stake for Holloway, Danny? I mean, he is the other party. He's not retiring, and he's permanently moving the lightweight. So if he wins, what does that do for him in that crowded top of the 55 division?
It's a weird sort of career moment for Max Holloway, and I feel like he's been in like several weird career moments with losing to Volkanovski consecutively, 2 times, and then or 3 times, and then beating all the other contenders in the division, this and that. Now he moves up, and then Ilia Topuria, who knocked him out in his last fight, is the champion. I mean, this kind of seems like a nightmare situation for him. So I don't know. He's a big name. He gives us exciting fights. One of the greatest to ever do it at 145 pounds, but he would get a big win over him. But what you do maybe to Poirier Holloway, I don't know. I think this just gets him another big fight, and then maybe when things are a little bit more clear, we figure out his trajectory then. But yeah, very murky waters right now for the Hawaiian.
I could see Holloway going, now I'll defend it against you, Topuria. I didn't do it at 45, but I'll do it on this one. And give me one other highlight, and then we'll kill it for this week. Nolan, what are you looking forward to at UFC 318?
Looking forward to the return of Vinicius Lockdog. I think he is one of the brightest stars at 135 pounds that the UFC has, and going out there against Kyler Phillips, I think going to be a great fight. Lockdog, I think he's got the personality, he's got the look. Dude's a physical specimen. His manager sent me a video of him a couple days ago, just casually deadlifting 310 pounds, like 10 days out from the fight when he weighs 40 pounds. So dude's a freak, and to put him up against Kyler Phillips, who needs to rebound here, I think it's great matchmaking by the UFC, and they could have a contender on their hands if Lockdog wins.
How about you guys? Who do you like from this card that you want to put a spotlight on?
Zellhuber and Johnson. I think I'd be shocked if a kick gets thrown. I think it's going to be some pretty high-level boxing in there, and I don't think it's going to go to the judges.
Mm-hmm. And Danny, how about you, man?
I'm going to shout out Dan Ige versus Patricio Pitbull. First of all, really, it's nice to see Dan Ige get a fight that he asked for, because it just seems like he always gets thrown like killers. So nice that he got a nice legacy fight, fighting a former Bellator champion in Patricio. And I want to see also what Patricio has left. Like, against Jair, he didn't look too great, right? But we know that this guy in his better days fighting at Bellator, he was one of the world's best. Wonder if he can maybe in this fight recover a little bit of that, and maybe we see some of the old Pitbull back.
Yeah. And there's a rematch of Vittori Allen. The first one took place at the Hard Rock near Danny a couple years ago. But that's not the one I want to spotlight. I want to spotlight Kevin Holland and Daniel Rodriguez. Both kind of worked their ways through some hard times, got nice wins, and now they're rebooked because they were supposed to fight a couple years ago as well. So I'm anxious to see how this one goes. These guys are popular guys, and one of them could really, really maybe start a little bit more of a takeoff by getting over on the other guys. So I think a lot at stake for both. I'm interested to see how that one works out. And folks, that's our show for today. Thank you so much for tuning in to Spinning Back Clique every week. Don't forget, we have another video franchise called Overreaction Time. I'll be the guest of Simon Samano on tomorrow's Overreaction Time, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific, right here on this channel. I always tell you, hit the like button, hit the like button on the way out, but also consider subscribing. It's all free. And like I say, no one covers the sport like MMA Junkie. All right, we're out of here for now. Enjoy the fights on Saturday. Don't forget to join us for the watch along, and we'll see you all next Monday for another SBC. Go out and be a champion.